really honing in on priorities is almost a non-negotiable in order to see success.
Hey there, Mompreneurs. This is Angela Mishuli, host of the Good Enough Mompreneur Podcast. Welcome back for another episode, or if this is your first episode, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to be here this week. I'm so happy to say I have survived the first week back to school. Woohoo! If you're in the same camp, arm up in the air, pat on the back. We did it. It is no joke hard to get back into the groove when school starts again. So one of the things that I use to do that is a time audit. And I have put together a aligned mompreneur workbook totally free. I will link it down below, or you will find it linked in my bio on Instagram. And so you can find that information there. And I just so love this interview with Giana Tralongo, a priority strategist to mompreneurs. And we talk about so many great things to help you with your mindset and managing your time and priorities. I think that there are so many great takeaways on this episode. So without further ado, here's my interview with priority strategist to mompreneurs, Giana Tralongo. Today, I am talking with Giana Tralongo. Am I saying that right? Hopefully I'm saying that right.
You are, yes.
Okay, all right. I should be like totally comfortable with Italian names, but I always hesitate.
No, you said it perfectly.
Okay, all right, awesome. I feel like I manifested you because you popped into my world. We connected right when I was just at a time where I was like, I need to be using my time more wisely. And that's what you do. You help mom business owners use their time more wisely. And I love how you put it, that you're a priority strategist. That is such a great way to say what you do. So welcome, Giana.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This conversation is going to be great. I know it. So I like to break the ice with like asking people a question about where they like to travel, because I'm also a travel entrepreneur, and it's so interesting to me, and it kind of like tells something about somebody when they're on the show. So where is a place that you like to visit, or you feel like alive, or has it impacted you? Where is that?
This is really hard because there's two, but I think that the biggest impact is for Moon. My husband and I took like the trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Then we also went to Maui. And there is something about the energy in Maui that just like filled up every of her soul with goodness. And I was so sad when we left that I always thought we'd be like we live in Florida. So it was like Hawaii is going to be like a one and done kind of thing. It's a long trip. After we were there, it was like, I want to renew vows here and take our kids here. We didn't even have kids yet. I cannot wait for so much more Maui in my life.
Yeah. You know, that's funny because my husband wanted to go to Hawaii for our honeymoon, and we went to Oahu and Kauai. And I was kind of like, I'm not a beach person. I mean, if you could see me, I'm like red hair, pale skin, like a beach, and I don't like, but the energy in Hawaii is incredible. It is definitely. I've been a few times, and it's like, if anybody's like, I don't know where to go, I'm like, go to Hawaii.
I
Yeah.
agree. I really agree.
Yeah.
It's an amazing spot. I would go back in a second.
Yeah. And we actually used to live near San Francisco for a few years. So San
Oh,
Francisco is really
cool. The weather
fun.
there is
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah. You have lots of microclimates around there. So yeah, that's cool. I love that. Yeah. I mean, travel just like really has an impact on us that I don't think people really think about. So I love that. I love that.
It's so true.
It is, it just like transports you physically. Like it does, it just like I never go on a trip and come back the same person. I don't care where it is. So, but yeah, I love that.
Agree with that 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that I think people should prioritize more, and do more thoughtfully. But we're going to talk about running your business more thoughtfully. How's that for a transition?
Yes, we are. It was good. I loved it.
So why don't you tell our listeners about your business and what you do?
So business is really as a priority. I believe that every decision that we make in us and really life, but we're talking business, needs to relate back to what our priorities are in our business. So a lot is really honing my clients in on what's important to them right now. Change every 3 months or so, but right now, what are we focusing on? And it's a very important piece as a mompreneur because distraction is abundant in our lives. And so that's why really honing in on priorities is almost a non-negotiable in order to see success.
And I think that is really interesting because it took me a long time, not a long time. I mean, I've been a business owner for a while, but it took me a while to realize the importance of using my time wisely and how it's not like this static thing. It's constantly changing. What was your light bulb moment that you're like, okay, this is something I'm good at, and this is something that people need my help with?
I am lucky, I guess, in the sense that I have always been good at time management. I've always been a planner. I will show you this. I know our listeners won't be able to see, but this is a Britney Spears notebook that is of my family and I with plans, budgets, and everything like completely mapped out because I've always been this way. But when I became a mom, and you literally don't have the control of your time that you did before having kids, I had to take all time skills I knew, put them on steroids, and adapt them to motherhood. Because one of the questions I get from clients or people I talk to is like, but what do you do? I have a plan, the plan works. And by this I had to just work motherhood because the traditional things just don't.
It's like motherhood is like this giant thing that you can't prepare for, but then add a business to that.
Yep.
It's
welcome to Chaos City.
Right. It's like in both of those things are also probably, if you embrace it, such a like therapy, like every one of your skeletons is going to bubble to the surface.
That's so true.
I mean, it's like it's just gonna shine a spotlight on your strengths and your weaknesses, and
there's no hiding. There's no hiding.
There is no hiding. And you know what? I think we spend a lot of time hiding. When you just like, if you deal with it and you take it on, man, you have such an opportunity to change for the better. So I'm really interested to learn, what are we doing? What are we all getting wrong as mompreneurs about our time management?
That's such a good really twofold. And people come to me for this strategy, but a big part of it is the mindset that we have around our management and how we operate as moms. One of the things I see my clients struggle so much is our initial gut reaction is to, when we have time, to do laundry or wash the dishes or pick up or scroll our phones, those kinds of things that really are not how we want to be spending our time. So, my kids are young, and a lot of times, especially in the beginning, nap time would come, and the first thing that I would do would be like, do the laundry or, pick up, piddle. That's what my husband calls it, piddling, when you're not really doing anything, but you're kind of doing things. And that's how I would spend my time. Then I'd be upset that I wasn't either filling my personal cup or being productive in the way I wanted to be productive. And it's really about changing how you look at the time you have and using certain times to do certain tasks. I call it chaos time and focus time. And there's certain tasks that you want to do in focus time, you have to do in focus time. And that's when your kids are asleep, early in the morning, when your kids are at daycare or in school. And then that's when the kids are awake, or when, I'm a morning person. So at night, my brain doesn't work. There's tasks that you should do within those two pockets, and it really helps your productivity, but you have to wrap your brain around what that looks like for your specific home and business.
It's really interesting because I think that there's also, we don't find this balance either. We fall into this trap where we're totally not being productive, or not as productive as we could, or we are like fall into this toxic productivity.
Yes.
Where we're totally ignoring ourselves and not being there for our family. Do you have this way of helping your clients find a balance?
I don't really believe in balance, which I know is shocking.
I've heard that. Yeah. No.
I really believe in seasonality. What you can do as a business owner when you have, a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old that's in school time is different than what a mom that has a 3 and a 4-year-old that's home with her full time. Right. What these two moms can do is different. What you can do in the summer, regardless of how old your kids are, when your kids are with you every minute of every day and they want 75,000 million snacks, it's very different than what you can do during the school year. And so for me, what I teach is it's about realistic expectations for this season that you're in. And a lot of that is putting blinders on and saying, this might be my big goal, but what's my realistic goal, my realistic priority for the season of life that I'm in right now, especially at the beginning of a business, when you're trying to figure everything out, you're learning everything off the cuff. You can't expect to have those 5K months or 10K months that the measure of success, especially in the online world, which makes me want to barf because there's so many other, layers and measures of success. It's really about the realistic expectation, the season that you are in, and ignoring what everybody else is doing. And a lot of that is surrounding yourself with people that are in the same season of you, because you have each other's backs a little bit more that way.
Yeah, no, that's, and I've heard a concept of kind of like leaning into where that season that you're in, and kind of thinking of yourself as almost like, one of those toys, the Weeble Wobble. It's like whatever kind of needs your focus, know and give yourself grace. And some of it just kind of comes with owning a business over time. You realize like, okay, right now I'm doing a launch, so I'm going to lean into that. And then hopefully you have some backup to help you with dinner or whatnot, or something like that. Or, you're going to have some late nights or what. But the next month, you're not going to have that. So you'll be able to find a little more free time to do X, Y, and Z. Or, if your children's activities pick up during that time, I'm not going to have this launch. So yeah, I mean, it's like, no, that's true. And I think even the concept, I was talking about toxic productivity, but you're right in that I think even the concept of like, we're trying to like, oh, I should be able to find this unattainable balance. That's not even really probably attainable or possible. I mean, it's just, you know, you're just having to spin different plates at different times, and just have to learn to be okay with that.
It's knowing it's juggling rubber balls and glass balls and knowing which are glass balls and you don't want to drop them, which are the rubber balls and you can drop them. And you brought up like when you're in a launch, that's such a great example of like when you are in a launch as a business owner, you are going hard in the paint, you are focused, you are having a lot of conversations, you are putting a lot of energy in. So that's when you say, for these 2 weeks that I'm launching, my priority is business. So are you deciding, instead of trying to do it all while you're in a launch, you ordering in meals or asking your spouse to cook? Are you calling in grandma to help you a little bit more with the, and then the toxic productivity comes in. When the launch is over, are you giving yourself space? Because I see this mistake a lot. People launch and then away, 2 days after they close cart, they start their program or they start whatever it is. Are you giving yourself space to say, I just launched, I'm exhausted, I kind of ignored my family for the last 2 weeks also, like let me fill their cup, my cup, and then I can show up again in my business. That seasonality like.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just, it's the more that we can think ahead and actually plan. I don't know. It's like, how do I think, I don't know. Is it that you see that your clients kind of are used to the chaos and they haven't learned to think strategically? What is it that you see? Is that?
Yeah, it's like that same it's like you can't see the forest when you're standing so close to the one tree. That's really what it's like. Is so many of my clients, regardless of the age of their kids, they're so in it. They're so in it, and I call it the chaos site. They're literally just prayer, survival mode. They're being reactive to things like as they come. And so they have to take a step back, and a lot of times you need somebody to help you do, to take your hand and pull you out of chaos. Say, let's take anxiety, really figure it together. It's second and business too, where you're just, they pop on your phone and on your computer. It's very normal for that. Operating sucks. Like nobody wants to.
Yeah. And people just wonder why they suddenly like, why am I so exhausted? Why am I so depleted on every level? And I was kind of at that place. And then, kind of when we connected and I realized like, whoa, we have to, because it wasn't so much just about my businesses, but it was about my kids' time as well. And I realized as a parent, my girls are older, they're 9 and 15. So I realized, like, I think being a mompreneur and being a parent is so integrated, and what we demonstrate to our kids. And you'll get to see that as you get older. And I don't know if you had any entrepreneurs around you as you were growing up, but I have to start demonstrating to them how to use their time more wisely and to start seeing where this is stressing me out.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes, I really understand that.
and a big part of that was learning boundaries. So I think that you can't talk about time management honestly without talking about boundaries. Is
I
that
agree.
is that a conversation that you have? Yeah, how do you approach that?
Boundaries. I love talking about boundaries. It's actually a full module in my time management
Oh
program for
yeah, that's
mompreneurs. It
cool.
is a full week that we talk about boundaries.
Yeah.
And again, like for me, until I became a mom, it was very easy for me to set. I almost too easy for me to set boundaries, but I really valued and continue to value what's important to me and my family. And boundaries are hard. And I think the biggest thing that I see, the two biggest things that I see people really kind of missing when it comes to boundaries is understanding boundaries. Say something like, I'm not gonna my phone after 10 p.m. But consider on your phone after 10 p.m., you're crossing your own boundary. So how can you expect anyone else to respect your boundaries if you're not respecting the boundary that you've set for yourself, the internal boundaries? And then the second mistake I see people make around external boundaries they set for other people is they don't tell them. They don't tell their clients. They don't tell they don't tell their older kids these are the boundaries, and they just expect people to read their or no. We all think so differently. So a boundary for you might not be a boundary for me.
Yes. No, and not only that, I have people in my family who are on the autism spectrum. So they don't pick up on the social cues. You have to be very explicit about like explaining and then, okay. But, that's a really interesting concept that I haven't heard about, like an internal boundary and an external boundary. So, what would you call an internal boundary?
An internal boundary are boundaries that you set for yourself. And the big ones right now are really around your phone. I'm not going to be on Instagram weekends, or I'm going to put my phone away at 10 p.m. Or, one of the first things that I kind of force all my clients to do is turn off every single notification on their phone, because that is other people needing your energy, and you don't need to respond to every single person immediately. And we all are so addicted to our phones. But another internal boundary can be, I'm going to go to bed by 9 p.m. every night. I know that it's, this whole like mom stay up and binge Netflix because I need my time is really sexy. I've done it too. Like I do understand it, but then you're stuck in that chaos cycle because you're exhausted the next day. So when you set those boundaries for yourself, that's the first step, is setting them. You have to not cross your own boundaries. Break the trust with you. Tell yourself, I'm not worth these boundaries, and it makes it a lot easier for other people to break in boundaries that you set for them. It all starts with how we treat ourselves first.
Yeah, and what I found is there are certain personalities and certain people that have like heat-seeking laser to people who don't set boundaries.
That is real.
And you are like a juicy piece of meat when you show up and you don't set boundaries. It is like internally they're going, yeah. So that is a really interesting concept that I think everybody needs to know about when it comes to boundaries. And I never really thought about that. But that is so true, because I mean, even for myself, I am such a night owl Luckily, I'm able to create my own schedule, and I'm more productive later in the day. It's just, how it goes. I think that that's important to figure out too, like what's your natural body rhythm like. But what are like the external boundaries that people kind of struggle with?
Two biggest ones that I see, because let's be honest, like I have toddlers, they don't have boundaries. There's not really like setting boundaries with toddlers,
right?
In conversation scope.
Mm-hmm.
But but the two biggest things I see is people don't set boundaries with current clients. Client emails at 11 p.m. or on Saturdays and Sundays, even though they don't want to be. If you want to work on Sunday, more power to you. That's, the fun of being an entrepreneur. But if you're saying I'm only available Monday through Thursday, but you're answering emails, you're talking to your clients on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you have allowed them to cross that boundary.
Yeah.
And then if you're about it, like it's kind of your own fault. Really setting boundaries with clients from day one, a lot of times before they even sign a contract or agree to work with you. And then the other one that I like to talk about, setting boundaries with your spouse. Many of the women that I work with come to me and they say, and I think we can all relate, especially if you're creating a business in the online space, is like, my husband doesn't understand what I'm doing. And so he thinks I'm just on my phone all the time. He comes home and he wants me to like be a wife at night, whatever, that means. And I've had people say to me, like, I'm mom all day, and then I feel like I have to be wife at night when I really want to be working. And setting those boundaries, again, a lot of it comes down to the communication. Are you telling your spouse how important business is for you? I spend 5 nights a week with you, but I need Wednesday and Thursday to that my time for stuff, or not work. Just need to go in bed and watch The Bachelorette or whatever your cup of tea is, as far as TV that you don't want to watch house. You are allowed to do that, but you have to communicate it to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I think that is so key, and I'm so lucky that my husband's really good about that, and luckily he works at home too. But I hear that a lot, that there isn't that. But I think, if you're starting to resent something, you're probably not communicating as well as you should be. And, we really have to, when we start feeling that way, recognize it and realize that, okay, I need to start doing something differently. We so quickly,
that is very true,
start to put blame on other people, but really, I mean, it's us. I mean, we control this ship, and as scary as that is, it can, just like you say, you can harm it. It's very powerful once you learn how to do it.
I agree with you.
So I just think that these are just some of the most fundamental skills that you can learn as a business owner. Like the earlier, the better.
Yes. Yes. Because if you can set up these foundational pieces in your business when you're first starting out, it makes the journey to grow and scale a lot easier than backpedaling after you've done that growth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is like the ultimate foundational work that you have to do, because it really helps you kind of focus on what your strengths and weaknesses are, just, and you really have to take an assessment in your life. Like, what is it? Where am I spending my time? I have this time audit that I found a few years ago, and it was just like a light bulb moment for me, to just do that and go, oh, okay, like this is where I'm spending my time. And that's really interesting, that how much our phones are playing into to our time suck. Oh, that's
It's the majority of it.
really, wow. I mean, I guess I've always been really conscious about it just because, I don't want my kids to see that. I don't want to, and I realize like how much it can affect your mood and what you think. And I often talk to people about, it's really important, especially when it comes to social media, to not fall in the trap of comparison, in comparing yourself with other people who do the same thing. So is that something else that kind of plays into managing your time as well?
I think it does. I think again, like our time is so limited that we actually have our focus, our brain firing off. You said figuring out like your body rhythm. I call it your time zone of genius. So like when is your brain the best version of itself? Right. And that time's limited. Our brain isn't at 100% all day long, especially again when you have kids that are pulling in a different direction. So a big thing at comparisonitis, if that's living free in your brain, it's taking away from other things. Another thing that I have my clients do is I'm a big fan of the unfollow. You do not need to follow anyone that makes you, even if you like them, even if you look up to them, but if looking at their profile makes you feel some type of negative way, unfollow them or mute them for 30 days. Because the more of that negativity that you allow, and again, that comparisonitis, it always comes back to what season are you in? Are you comparing yourself? For a while there, it was buying all of these like younger coaches that were maybe married but had no kids, and they do big retreats in Tulum, Mexico. That's like the thing to do, and buying new clothes and going on these trips. And I was feeling not necessarily that I wanted to be in Tulum, but like I wanted to travel alone. I wanted to travel with my business. And at the time, it just wasn't realistic for me. I had young kids. I was breastfeeding. I didn't have that. So I had to unfollow them because why am I comparing myself to somebody that's 10 years younger than me, that is not a mom, and feeling bad about it when it really shouldn't affect my life at all. Yeah. So that unfollow button, it is so powerful.
It is. And I think it gets to the point of like, not only analyzing where you're spending your time, but how are you feeling when you're doing what you're doing? It's like connecting that with an emotion is really powerful too. I mean, it's, I mean, I am. So I think that, that whole comparison game and unfollowing. One thing that I read recently, and it's so funny. I find it so interesting how women are programmed and moms are programmed differently than men, and women are such givers. And I recently saw this video that just plain blank said, you don't owe anybody anything. And I think we need to be reminded of that. We're, especially as moms, we want to take care of things. We want everybody to be okay. We want, of course we owe our families first, to be there. That's our responsibility. But outside of that, we don't owe anybody anything. And I thought that was just so powerful. So, I mean, that sounds like there's so much to get into with all of the time management. And I think that is like a great foundation. But let's talk about you being a mom and how your entrepreneurial, mission and trajectory has affected you as a mom, because I love your story and how you talked, checking out your website, you talk about how I think your pregnancy journey affected like you determining what was good for you and what was right for you. And you kind of transferred that into like finding a business that was good for you. So I think that that's just so powerful, where we get trapped in like how a bad situation is just bad and don't transform it into something that works for us. So talk about that.
Yeah, so I've always known I wanted to own my own business since I was 8 years old. My grandfather owned an Italian grocery store that I grew at like 3 years old. I was like beating the cans on the bottom shelves to earn $1 from him. So I always knew that I would have my business. I just never knew what. And before I had kids, I was a wedding planner, but then I was in a network marketing company on the side. And after I got pregnant, after I had my oldest, I had really severe postpartum depression, like darkest time, hardest time of my life. I've never felt that way before. I hope I never feel that way again. Yeah. And a lot of that came from my whole life change. I gave up my wedding planning job. I gave up the network marketing, and I thought I had to be this traditional 1950s version stay-at-home mom, because it's just what I thought. That's the messages that I was getting from a lot of the people around me. And then we got pregnant.